Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the rising sign or ascendant versus the sun sign. And what I mean by that, let me elaborate, is that in charts, which one is going to have more emphasis and how much so. And anyway, as most of you know, in general, I do think the rising sign is more dominant in its expression, at least in its outward characteristics, as opposed to the sun sign. Now, certain charts, there may be a little bit more equilibrium in terms of the personality, the characteristics that are shown with the rising sign and sun sign. I think one misconception that people may have is that if they have, let's say hypothetically, somebody has a fixed rising sign and the rising sign is Scorpio and the sun sign is in a weaker one, and when I say weaker one, I mean like a mutable sign, for example, like Pisces or Virgo, and they're going to say, well, that means for that reason that I should be displaying more characteristics and traits as far as Scorpio as opposed to Pisces or to my Pisces or Virgo sun. And it's not, I don't think that's not the reason why someone will necessarily exhibit more traits of their rising sign. The rising sign in general, you're going to exhibit more traits regardless of the sign that the rising sign is in or what the sun sign is in. I think a lot of it has to do with the house placement of the sun. If the houses, the mutable houses or the cadet houses, the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th, the sun loses its energy, or planets in general lose their energy, and they're not expressed as strongly in those houses. If somebody has their sun in the 3rd house, or 6th, 9th, or 12th, it weakens the energy of the sun, and I would think that the rising sign would really dominate more in terms of at least the outward characteristics and personality traits that this person exhibits. Now, let's say somebody has the sun sign in a cardinal house, 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th. The angular houses, planets will generally, they'll get more strength there. If you take somebody, let's say, that has Scorpio rising like in a late degree, say 25 degrees, and they have their sun in Sagittarius at like 10 degrees in the 1st house, they might have a little more of a balance with that Sagittarius Scorpio energy, because the sun sign Sagittarius would be in that house of personality. The person might show a little more Scorpio traits outwardly, but the person would maybe have a closer balance in terms of exhibiting the Sagittarius, the jocular, expansive, and exuberant energy, and that would come out stronger as opposed to it being in the 12th house, for example. Now, also, another theory is that if somebody has their sun sign in the bottom half of the chart, in the 1st through 6th houses, the sun was somewhat, I guess you could say, hidden during that time based on the time of birth, and might not be expressed as strongly. I lean more with what I was stating before about the sun sign being in the mutable houses as opposed to that, but some people feel that if the sun is between houses 1 through 6, that the rising sun will take on even greater emphasis for that reason. Now, another thing is, let's say if you have the sun sign making a conjunction, an out of sign conjunction to your rising sign in the 1st house, now, or even in the 12th house, those energies might be more amalgamated and synchronized greater than as opposed to having it, say, say, out of aspect or in an adverse aspect, say. Now, because they're in such close proximity to each other, some people may not know who they're dealing with one day. Let's take somebody that has a late Leo ascendant in an early Virgo sun sign position in conjunction with each other. They might exhibit that gregarious, extroverted Leo energy at one moment, and then the next moment they might seem a little more reticent and shy and a little bit more introverted and more to themselves. Another thing is, if somebody has, let's take an example. If you have the Sun sextile or trine your ascendant, and in their incompatible signs especially, let's say somebody has a Cancer ascendant and Pisces Sun, and there's a sextile aspect made. Well, those two signs may very readily blend in well with each other, and for that reason you might see a little more of a balance between the Sun sign and the ascendant. Now let's take somebody that has their Sun making an adverse aspect to their ascendant. Let's say, for example, somebody has Taurus rising and they have their Sun sign in Libra, and it makes a quincunx or inconjunct aspect to each other. Now, this person may feel sometimes they're misunderstood, others misconstrue them. They might, I think in this particular case, you would have, because you wouldn't have that strong blending, you would see probably more, you would see very strongly the rising sign attributes or traits, but at the same time this person may inwardly feel that they have strong traits connected with their Sun sign, and they just feel like maybe they're misunderstood and they're unable to really project those traits as strongly to others. Now, really, that's basically, I mean, as far as the strength with the Sun sign and rising sign goes. And we look at this, and another example could be, let's say somebody has their Sun in the 12th house. Now the 12th house is a mutable house or caden house, and that would really be kind of like hidden from others, and especially if it's in the 12th house and it doesn't conjunct the ascendant, this could be a person who really strongly doesn't maybe show, I guess you could say, their true self or their inner character to others, and reluctant to do so, but would be more emphasized in seclusion and solitude in private matters with people maybe that they really know. And another thing is that with the rising sign, I do believe, I think some of you may have seen a video which I talked about this maybe, that the rising sign, I think perhaps could very well be at least a little bit more than just our astrological mask or facade. Because I read in a book one time, it said that they were talking about my rising sign, Taurus rising, and they were talking about such and such dominates their thoughts, whether maybe it was pertaining to monetary matters. Now, if something's dominating someone's thoughts and that statement is associated with the rising sign of that person, well, forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's the innermost part of a person. That's the inside. That's not the side you're showing outwardly. So I think perhaps the rising sign might be a little bit more connected with our inner character than it's basically been stated over the years. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the rising sign versus the Sun sign in a natal horoscope. Stay tuned next time, where I'll be continuing my series with Chiron aspects. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.